for trafficked into the United States by an organization.
All right. Good evening and welcome to everyone out there who is having access to watch this. Tonight I'm hosting Dr. Francesca Fangemi from the United States of America, the founder of Your Black Matters. Dr. Fangemi, how are you doing?
I am doing really well. It's exciting to be here with you today, and thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you so much, Doctor. And of course, this show is brought to us compliments of Dulsa Enterprises, and we are glad that we are on this platform to be able to share with Dr. Francesca Fangemi. Dr. Fangemi, would you like to tell us more about yourself, who you are, how do you grow up, where do you actually come from?
That's a great question, and thank you for asking. I was born in England. I went to Nigeria with my parents when I was 5 years old. I spent about 10 years over there. And in Nigeria, I did my high school, my elementary school and high school, and then went back to England. I was actually admitted to do vet medicine in Nigeria, but I didn't want to do vet medicine. I wanted to do human medicine. And so for that reason, I did not accept the admission. So I went to England at University of South Bank. I was admitted to do chemical engineering. I started with chemical engineering. Everything was going well until midway through. I was doing kind of like a summer program at Boots the Chemist, which is a large, almost like your pharmaceutical kind of chemist. I had a boss that time who wanted me to help her do some accounting work. So I was doing the accounting work, and then she said, "You're really good at this." And I'm like, "Oh, really? Is this accounting?" And she said, "Yeah, this is it." So I decided to switch from chemical engineering, and I went into accounting. I had my bachelor's, my master's, and my doctorate in business as well. So from England, I came over to the United States with my husband. I met my husband when I was in Nigeria. So we came over to the United States. We've been in the US for over 30 years. So I would say most of my adult life, I would say, was spent in the United States. But I can attest that I have a good understanding of African mindset, European mindset, and also American mindset. And the fact that I've been to many, many, many countries, about 60, I feel I feel like I understand a lot of the mindset of people, especially as it relates to Black people. So I don't know, is there anything else you would like to know about my background?
Well, just to catch up on, I'm interested in the fact that you've been to a number of countries. So you've mentioned England, the United States, Nigeria. How many more other countries have you been to in Africa?
Oof, I've been to a lot. I've been to Kenya, I've been to Tanzania, I've been to Morocco, I've been to Ghana. I mean, I've been to many, many, many countries. That's just Africa and almost all the continents, to be honest with you, I've been to. So I feel very blessed to have had that opportunity.
Indeed, it's a wonderful opportunity. So the matter here is mainly about Your Black Matters. That's your organization, Doctor, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. Your Black Matters was established in 2020. And it was as a result of George Floyd incidents that happened in the United States. I'm sure you know about George Floyd, how he was murdered, right, openly on camera, and the whole world saw it. The fact of the matter was that was a very difficult period for a lot of people. Number one, everybody were all at home, working from home. So almost everyone had the opportunity to see that video, the 8-minute clip of how he was murdered. But I chose not to look at it because I thought it was too emotional. I knew what it was about, but I just didn't want to see it. However, one day it came out on TV, and my husband was just telling me that, oh, by the way, this was the judgment. And I wanted to rush out of the room because I really did not want to see it. But I heard him, and he was screaming, "Mama, Mama!" And this was an adult. He was over 40, screaming for his mother. The mother had already passed away more than 3 years ago. So you know that man was tormented. So anyway, I jumped out. I ran out of the room because I really didn't want to hear it. But days went by, weeks went by. The protest continued. It was a global protest. I mean, almost every country in the world, I would say, participated in one kind of protest or the other. Because now everybody really saw what was going on with Black people. It was right there on the screen. And so during that period, I was also meditating that this protest has been going on. Is there any hope? What is going to happen? I mean, you can have protests day in, day out. Is it making a difference? Is there a change? Will there be a difference? I mean, nothing. You really know that there wasn't going to be anything. So I was meditating on it. And then one of the days, my grandson, he was 4 years old that time in 2020. So he normally comes to the house to spend the weekend from Friday to Sunday. And so he was at the house with my daughter, my second daughter. So they were upstairs. And then my daughter sent a video recording to the family chat. And the video recording was with her and my grandson having a conversation. My grandson was saying, Auntie, I'm turning more Black. And he looked so sad saying it. And my daughter said to him, she said, oh, but Jide, you look nice. I mean, I'm Black too, look at my skin. And he looked at her skin and he said, but you are nice. When I saw that, I broke down, Jerry, because what that tells me is that his aunt looks nice, but generally Black people are not nice. He said, but you are nice, which means Black people are not nice, but you are. So that dawned on me that, oh my goodness, this is a 4-year-old that is already feeling the weight and the heaviness of being a Black person. And I just wonder, where on earth did he get this from? How did he figure out that it's a hard thing to be Black at 4? He had not even started any real school yet he knows this. So I knew right there that definitely I have to do everything within my power to make sure that he is confident and is comfortable about being a Black person. There is absolutely no reason for him to be sad because he's Black. So I made that commitment, and I tell you, since we were able to travel last year, he went with us to Tanzania, he went with us to Morocco. I want to make sure that he knows what it means to be Black, and he enjoys being Black and is proud to be Black. So there were actually 3 major reasons that drove me to start Your Black Matters, but I'm going to stop there because I know you probably have other questions that you might want to ask me. So that was how I started Your Black Matters. From Your Black Matters, I have a podcast, which is called Reimagining Black Relations. The goal of that is really to come up with solutions to the issues faced by the Black race. And the Black race that we're talking about is not just in the United States, because the issue stems from the United States, but Black people all over the world are facing the same issue. It doesn't matter whether you are on the continent or you are in the diaspora. Blacks are facing the issue all over the world. So the purpose of my podcast and Your Black Matters is really to drive issues, to empower Black people to be successful, because economic empowerment is what's going to make the difference. You know, the strike is not going to do it, the protest is not going to do it, the anger is not going to do it. We need economic empowerment. That will make a difference. So that's the goal.
When you talk like that, I'm quickly reminded of Dr. Marcus Garvey, who had that goal of empowering Black people economically so they could do things for themselves on their own. So yeah, you're really carrying on that legacy, and it has to live on in every one of us. So now with this such a powerful organization, Doctor, I imagine, do you have any financial backing, any financial muscle that drives your vision for this organization, Your Black Matters?
Well, I have a lot of muscle that is even beyond financial. I have some heavy duty spiritual muscle that is backing the organization, because, you know, since I started in 2020, we have held 2 global conferences. The first one was in 2020. Countries all over the world. Oh, sorry about that. Let me just make sure the, okay. You know, the first global conference, which participation from almost everywhere, because people really know that this is the right time to start pushing this effort forward. So that was the first one. There was another global conference last year, which is about the Pan-African youth. That was also a massive one. We have, I don't know if you know about, I mean, there's some, you know, activists in the US that were like major speakers at the event. So it was pretty powerful. So when you talk about financial muscle, it's also the weight of the people that are supporting the organization that is really driving it. So there's nothing that we needed to do that we cannot afford to do. Even my trip to the United States, I mean, to the Republic of South Africa right now, it's as a result of it. It's really to promote it and to drive it. And I am so grateful for the opportunity. We went to Standerton, we went to Limpopo, we went to Zanin, we went to Karava, what's the name of the other place? Oh, Soweto. We've been to quite a number of places. Oh, Pietermaritzburg in Durban, you know, I mean, and the message is going around. So I'm just so excited about the opportunity to be able to do that.
That's correct. And in the communities of South Africa, I'm driven to ask you, what is a core message you are driving to the people in South Africa, in the places you've been to especially?
Well, 2 critical messages. Number 1 is for Black people to know where they're coming from. What was the history? A lot of Black people don't know their history. So I took them all the way back. In fact, we went to the 1st century, because if you think back, especially when it comes to the matter of Christianity, the understanding is that, or at least the mainstream understanding is that Christianity was brought to Africa by the missionaries. Well, that wasn't the case, because for people that knows their Bible, they will know that there was that Ethiopian Enoch in the Bible that Philip preached to. Ethiopian Enoch, Ethiopian. Ethiopia to me sounds African in the Bible, right?
Of course.
So if that man believed Christ from that moment, when he was preached to, he took the message back to his country. And that's why today, a church way back in the 4th century is still standing in Ethiopia. So Christianity was brought to Africa way back, just right after the death of Christ. So I take people all the way back to understand what happened through colonialism, basically to understand that almost all Africa was colonized, but before colonialism, Africa was the richest. In fact, Black people were the richest people on earth, right, that time. And then we talked about colonialism, we talked about the uniqueness of South Africa. South Africa experienced double whammy. You have apartheid and you have colonialism. That's major. There's no other Black country that experienced double whammy of what South Africa has been through or is still sort of going through. They haven't completely gotten out of it. So you have South Africa that has a uniqueness. You have Liberia that is also unique. Liberia was formed as a result of slaves that were brought back from the Americas. They wanted to just bring them back to their country. So they were descendants of slaves that were brought back to form Liberia. So Liberia was also unique. Ethiopia was the third unique country in Africa because they were really never colonized. They only had about 5 years where Italy ruled over them, but very quickly they took it over. But the rest of Africa, they were colonized. So we talked about colonization. We talked about the impact of colonization. We talked about what it means to be a Black person, the real definition from the encyclopedia. And if you hear that definition, it will blow your mind. I can't get into all the details right now, but I'm just giving you snippets of some of the things that we covered. Then from that, we talked about how we as Black people, we have embraced those definitions. Right? Why do Black women have to bleach their skin? Why do Black women have to press their hair? Why do we have those things that are going on? We need to ask ourselves, why are those things going on? So we talked about all that, and then we moved on to empowerment. The empowerment really, which focuses on, it's not about the education you have, because people tend to say, oh, but I didn't go to school, I didn't have this. But there were so many descendants of slaves that invented a lot of things, but they did not have education. Traffic lights was invented by a Black person. Air conditioning and heating system was invented by a Black person. Refrigerator by a Black person. So many things. And these Black people did not have that much of an education, maybe primary education, but many of them did not have any education. So that is not an excuse. We have the ability to be able to do much with ourselves if we're able to put ourselves to it. So we talked about that. We talked about opportunity depending on where we are. For example, we were in Carava, in Limpopo. The opportunity that was so glaring to us was because they make 65% of South Africa's avocado. Well, that is an opportunity that they can tap into. We looked at Zanin. In Zanin, we know that ZZ2 is the company that is making 90% of the tomatoes of South Africa. And ZZ2 is the #1 producer of tomatoes in the world. And that is from Zanin. So what we came up with is that, well, what we can do is let's make Zanin a country by itself. When you are a country by yourself, you need to form a team that is going to work. Okay, so if you are selling, let's say you decide you're going to go for chicken, you'll be selling chicken, this one is selling fish, you cross trade with one another because you want to make sure the money stays within the Black community. If the money stays in your community, we'll have tendency to become wealthy. In fact, we talked about building the Black Wall Street. I don't know if you've heard of the Black Wall Street in the United States. There was the Black Wall Street where the Black people built an environment where they can trade and they can have self-sufficiency. So they were trading with one another. They established, it was a central place, just like you have Wall Street today in the United States, they had a Black Wall Street. They were so powerful, they were so wealthy, but at some point, they were threatening the establishment and they burned the whole place down, literally burnt down to the ground. But you know what? This is a new dispensation right now. We know Black Wall Street works. We know it works. So we can definitely replicate that in what we do, which means Black needs to buy from Black. We need to buy Black. That is just it, when you absolutely need to buy. And you have to remember, we have tendency to be consumer more than producers. Blacks consume more than they produce. Oh, I like this black sweater. Oh, I'm going to get the red one, and I get the green one too, and I buy the blue one too. We buy and buy and buy, but we don't make and make and make. So we take all our hard-earned money, we go and spend it with the other groups, and we don't have anything coming onto our side. So those are the mindset that we are beginning to shift. We need to shift those mindset from just buying and just acquiring things that are of no value, right? They are not assets that we are acquiring. They are just stuff. Shoes, okay? Does shoe have value at the end of the day? Does it increase in value? No, it doesn't. Clothes, oh, I want this Nike jacket or Nike this and that or what have you, but it doesn't increase in value. That's why the whole world knows that Blacks are the #1 consumer of everything. We just consume, whether it's TV, whether it's entertainment, whether it's sport, whatever it is, we consume it all, right? Instead of us being a producer, and others look at us and they just watch. You know, think about it. Even the protests that were going on in several cities in South Africa, you know, it breaks my heart, because when the protests are going on, it's going on in Black community. They're destroying Black community. They're pulling down Black community. They just destroying the opportunity to thrive. People that want to go to their businesses or their shops or whatever, they cannot. Guess what? The people you are protesting against, they don't even go through that neighborhood. They do not go through that neighborhood at all. So if you want to protest, feel free, continue to protest. You know, so it's just that consciousness that now we need to be able to figure out, how are we going to make things work for us? So that was some of the things that I've been discussing. And you know what? I'm so grateful that South Africa has received this really, really well.
Wonderful. No, we are happy to be hosting you. I understand you are in Cape Town now. How's Cape Town to you so far?
Well, very lovely. We just arrived this evening, and it's actually bigger than I thought. I'm like, wow, you know what? South Africa is a huge country. That's just the bottom line. Huge country. And with so much, you know, the potentials are just, they're just too massive. I'm just looking forward to the next few years, what would happen, how Black people would thrive in South Africa. That is my desire. That is my hope. And I believe it can work. I believe it can work.
Very true, Doctor. Doctor, sadly, we have a drug problem here. I don't know whether you traveling around the country, you got exposed to a problem we really are having with drugs. It's a problem that sits with a lot of our young people, mostly males. How do you think we can actually turn things around there so that we empower people to stay away from drugs, and of course, to borrow from your words, start doing things for themselves and start to being producers rather than consumers?
You know, it's very, very sad. In the United States, the same drug problem, it's usually in the Black community. Marijuana, you know, just all those type of drugs that just oppresses you and weighs you down, and you spend whatever it is you have. The question we need to ask is, how is drug introduced into Black communities? You have to remember that drugs, they're not cheap, they're very expensive. So it's an institution that introduces drugs into the Black community. And then when they get in the Black community, they use like young Black kids, you know, to be able to move this around, you know, to distribute this. And then it becomes something of, you know, pride, that when you take it, you're high, you feel cool and all that. And the entertainment industry doesn't help. because they project it as if it's something really cool to be high, it's fun, girls like you, and all those kind of stuff. You know what? We're gonna need to start from home. I told mothers, I was in one of the meetings with women, and I said, mothers, you have a responsibility. It is a mother that raised Nelson Mandela. It is a mother that raised Hitler. It is a mother that raised Jesus Christ. Mothers have impact. We're gonna need to make sure we raise our children in a way that they understand what is critical and what is not, what is valuable for them and what is not. You know what? When we leave those children to themselves, they will occupy themselves. They will literally occupy themselves. And the saddest part is sometimes you have mothers that are raising kids that they are not even capable of taking care of things themselves. So Black people, we need to come together. You know, I know about Christianity. I know people have all kind of religion that they practice. But for me as a Christian, there's a big role that the church has to play in raising kids and occupying them. If kids are not occupied, they will be promiscuous. They will try all kinds of things. We need to be on their case at all times. Kids that are successful, you work at it. I raised 3 children. I have a 35-year-old right now, and I have a set of twins, they're 25. My twins graduated with masters at 19. I work at it. Kids will always be kids, but you're gonna have to work at it and make sure you stay on them. It is not a joke. It is not a joke. So I want to encourage our community of mothers and fathers and churches and various organizations that we need to stay on them, occupy them, take them to music classes, get them trained on drums, on dance, on all those things that will occupy them. If you let them loose on the street, they will do those things that you don't want them to do. So we absolutely need to stay on top of them. Kids will be kids, they're gonna kick back and all that, but it doesn't matter. You're still the mother, you're still the father. You know, so that's what I would say. The community that we're in, we need to come together and see it as a problem in our community that must be solved. It's not, government is not going to solve it for us. The government is not going to help us to solve this one. We need to solve this problem ourselves. And we need to make sure our children are not going into those areas where they will have access to those things. And there has to be repercussion when kids do those things. Unfortunately, government knows how those things are getting into our neighborhoods, but they're not doing anything about it. They know it's a way to pull the money from your neighborhood. They bring the drug in. Oh yeah, they'll only pay 5 rands for this, but 5 rands multiplied by millions and millions and millions of people. You know how much that is going to be. So it's some big guy up there that's taking all those rands, giving them drugs and taking those rands. We need to understand that. We need to understand that. So it's not something that's going to be solved overnight, but it has to be a community effort. Remember, it takes a village to raise a child. Remember that saying. This is the time the village effort needs to come alive.
Very true, Dr. You have a lot of things to say, and we can drink from this well that is you and get filled up ourselves. So, Doctor, how will you actually influence good governance in Africa? Because when you look at Africa, you have wars and famine and all those other challenges in our own continent, such that other people think that this is a dark continent. So how do you plan with your Black Matters, Dr. Franjimi, to influence good governance and responsible government and leaders that are having the passion of the people from the heart?
Yeah, this is one that is so dear to my heart, because yeah, they say Africa is the dark continent, but we also know that Africa feeds the rest of the world, period. Africa feeds the rest of the world. Whether it's the things underneath the ground, whether it's the things above the ground, you know, the metals, I mean, everything. We have the right weather, we have intellectual capacity to be able to do this, but Africa is being exploited. That's the bottom line. I was on a call, I think it must have been, it definitely was over a year ago. This man was from Israel. And this man said he started going to Africa 4 years ago. And he said that he wished he had known about Africa when he started his career, like 20 years ago, whatever, you know, the number of years. He said the money he made in 4 years exceeded what he made in his entire career. Now, this was a foreigner coming into Africa to say this. Now, you have people in Africa that are not able to say this. You have people in Africa that are suffering or in poverty, impoverished, right, for one reason or the other. Good governors in Africa. Do you remember what happened when our people were being taken as slaves? It was for a pack of sugar. I give you, chief or my leader, I give you a pack of sugar, you give me 10,000 men. I give you a pack of sugar, you give me 10,000 men. Now, think about that. We have a price tag, Jerry. We have a price tag. And the people that are dealing with us, they not only understand our language, they understand our culture, they understand what they need to do to get what they want from us. They have studied us so well that all I need to do is to say, Jerry, you know what, I need that plot of land that you're sitting on. I would like to have it. How much would you be willing to give it to me? And you say, oh no, my father, my great-great-great-grandfather gave that to me. It's been in the family, blah, blah, blah. And they said, Jerry, let me give you $1 million US. And you will say, no way, no way. And they say, Jerry, I know this land is so important to you. You want to keep it in the family? How about if I give you $100 million? Now, Jerry, you would think twice before saying no, because what they are offering you is something that is difficult to say no to. We're not talking rands, we're talking US dollars. So you will look at the land, you'll be like, look, it's just all dirt anyway. So you give them that land and you get the pack of sugar. The pack of sugar is equivalent to that US dollars you're getting. So what I'm saying is, to be able to have good governance, we absolutely all need to decide that we are not going to be a sellout. We are not going to be a seller. It does not matter how much they offer. Don't even let it get to you, because they know everybody has a price tag and they will give you something you cannot refuse. And so if you're still in that mindset, I'm sorry, Africa will continue to be impoverished, because they know they just need to pick on that person that is gullible, that is only so self-centered, not thinking about the good of the people or only thinking about themselves. They'll give them what they cannot say no to, right? And when they give you that, that's it, you've sold out. Well, when you do that, then they come in, whether it's land they're going to take, whether it's your natural resources they're going to take. That is what is causing Africa to be impoverished. So if our leaders, our chiefs, or whoever we have, if they have not made that determination that number one priority for me is my people, I don't care what they offer, my people first, we can't make it work until we have that mindset. We absolutely need to come with that mindset. Once we have that mindset, then we move on internally, because that mindset is really externally. How do we relate with people outside? So once we're able to deal with that, then we move internally. Everybody needs to be accountable. You cannot just sit down and say, okay, we're making this much money, I'm the minister of this or the president of that, and you're not accountable. What does it take to provide electricity? What does it take to provide infrastructures to make it work? We have the money. The money are the natural resources that we have. The world wants it. We have cocoa, we have coffee, we have timber, we have it all. The world needs it. In fact, we can put the price that we want on those things that we have, Jerry. If they say, oh, you know, the market says it's $10,000, we say, we have it. We are going to do it for $100,000. If you want it, take it. If you don't want it, too bad. We have those things. If you're the one that is making it, you're selling, you can call the shot. That's exactly the position we need to be, Jerry, to be able to call the shot. This is the price. If you don't want it, go get it somewhere else. There's no somewhere else. This is Africa. This is where we have it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand, Doctor. And it brings me now to, you spoke of the Pan-African Youth Movement. Am I referring to it correctly?
Correct, yes.
Yes. I have my hopes right there because now the leaders we have now have aged, or some of them are still aging, and we need to start investing into the youth so that we can be led into the future. So what potential do you see in the Pan-African movement?
And that was, yes, that was the goal of that Pan-African youth, to develop youth for positions of leadership. Now, Jerry, if you grow up in an environment where your leaders, all the way down, there's corruption, all the way from top to bottom, and kids are growing in that environment, tell me, is that kid going to be corrupt or not? Because the kid is growing in corruption. That's all the child knows, right? So automatically the child will be corrupt too. So the goal of the Pan-African youth is really to start grooming youth to be able to understand what it means to have good governance. What does it really mean to have an environment that thrives even for the good of the people? An ethically sound environment, which we don't have in many, many of our African countries. Unfortunately, we do not have it. So that's the goal. So we have, various ways that we're developing them. We're providing training, access to resources, networking, just grooming them. Because today it may be that, okay, Jerry, you want to run for, maybe the governor or for the president of your country. Do you even know what it means to be the governor or the president? What does it take? What do you need? Do you understand like the international collaboration that is involved in there? Do you understand even the national effort that is involved? Our youth, yeah, they want to be this, they want to be that, but do they know what it takes to be able to run good government? So that was the purpose of establishing the Pan-African Youth. And they are being trained and being prepared so that if anyone wants to go forward to do that, they not only do they have a good overview of what it takes, but they also have access to resources that can guide them. Because we're matching them with resources that can guide them, whether it's in terms of political power or in terms of the infrastructures, education, health system, those type of resources that they would need to be able to have a successful government. We're basically providing all that for them. And also part of YBM, we have a leadership institute, Youth Leadership Institute, that is also prepping the youth to be able to take that step. So you have that foundation so that when you're ready to take that step, you already have the background on how to be able to hold a great position for your country, to serve your country right.
That's right. Doctor, we're running out of time, but I have this one last question because other questions were really inspired by you as you were talking. So I said, okay, let me just stick in some more there and get more out of the doctor, Dr. Francisca Panjimi. So your last question, Doctor, what can we do in our country, South Africa, to support and promote the mission of Your Black Matters?
Thank you for that question. It is so critical. Jerry, what I would like to be done is to have the opportunity to access youth. Access to youth access to women, access to, even if it's government, just access to continue to spread the word. See, this message it has to be grassroots. It needs to come from the bottom up. You know, it's a movement, Jerry. It's a movement that, you know, as we begin to, you know, prep people and they're hearing it and the news is spreading, the message is spreading, then our mindset begins to shift from, oh, you know, I'm just this, I'm nobody, I can't do anything, I can't get anywhere. Our mindset will begin to shift to becoming somebody. So what South Africa can do for me is access to people to be able to get the message out. So having this conversation is one way that you are helping in South Africa to be able to spread it. More so, access, whether it's in churches, whether it's in community centers, whether it's at schools, whether it's at universities, colleges, you know, just anywhere we can have access to people to be able to share the message. And we can do it virtually. I mean, I know I came to South Africa physically this time, but we can do it virtually as well. I've had the same conversation in many other places virtually, and the movement is continuing. So those were some of the things you can do to help spread the message in South Africa.
Wonderful. Dr. Francisca Panjimi, it's been extremely wonderful to be able to host you in South Africa and to host you, to talk to you on our program here. We thank you so much. This is going to go out there, and our young people are going to hear it, our leaders, our elderly people as well, who can understand English. They will be able to catch on these messages and own them and make it their own as well. So we thank you so much for your time. Enjoy your stay, your last day in Cape Town. Enjoy the beach. Make sure you go to the Table Mountain, please, at least.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll be going to, so we'll be visiting Robben Island and Table Mountain. Those two we definitely have on our calendar to visit. But Jerry, I want to thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation with you. Thank you for what you do. You are definitely helping to move the effort forward. So I really want to appreciate you. And anytime you want to have a conversation with me, you have access to me. You have my number, my contact, so please feel free to do so. So thank you so much, and greetings to your family, okay?
Thank you so much. Say thank you on our behalf to your husband. He's so generous with you, and you know, we'll meet him properly soon.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.